Welcome to Art as a Hobby. Today, we're going to be playing with some watercolors. I don't really have anything in mind. I've seen some of the beautiful things online with just blooms of watercolor and then doing ink over top for a nice springtime image. I have my watercolors here. I have watercolor pencils in case I want some colored pencil detail in it. I have my two basins of water. One will remain clean at all times and the other one will be for my brush cleaning. I have a plastic palette. I have my drawing pencils so I can just do an easy sketch if I want to, or I can just jump right in with the tools here. So that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm actually thinking about making just some basic circles and splotches. Then once it's dry, we'll be able to go over it with the pens. Okay. So I'm going to start out with just getting my pad, my paper wet. So I'm going to dip it in this nice clean water and get this area fairly wet. I'm looking to do kind of circles because I like the dynamic dimensions of circles. So I'm just going to get a couple of circles here. Wet my paper really good so it's nice and shiny. So I know I have enough that the colors will bloom on it. Nice and pretty. And then we're done with the big brush. I'm going to go back in with my smaller number 7 round brush. I'll pick up some fresh water on that. And I think we're going to have a very nice, like orangish, yellow, green. So I'm going to go in here and get my colors wet. They've not had a chance to wet down yet. I'll put some of that right there on my palette. And I'll grab some more water. And just get a little bit more of that yellowish color. I like that yellow. It's a nice golden yellow. Okay. I'll go ahead and just do some drops here. See if we can put them together. Take a little bit more. Get a little bit more wet. I want more of a wash than the concentrated color. I really want this color to flow and move. There we go. You see with that extra water now, I'm getting dots that are spreading out with the wetness, the wet on wet technique. Okay, so that's our yellow. Wash off my brush. I'll go back in with some maybe orange. Orange is a beautiful summery color. It's nice springtime. Get some oranges in here. Okay, and this one is just a regular orange color. Okay, I get a little bit more water. Water that down so it's more of a wash. Okay, and then we're gonna put this over this way so we can get some color over here. Doesn't really matter what shape you do your colors. We're going to blend them all together. And as you can see, my under color water is starting to dry. So before I do my next color, I'm going to kind of clean that out a little bit. Okay. So we're going to add some more water, maybe in between right here. And let's go in with a green, because a lot of nature is green this time of year. For us here in Texas, it's about the only time we have nice green yards and trees as we have this springtime. Once it becomes summer, it'll all dry out and not be as vibrant. Okay, just getting some color on there. Adding my water for a wash. I really like these watercolors. They're less expensive than a lot of the professional brands, and they seem to have a good amount of pigment in them, so that even as you water down your wash, it still has that bright color. There you go. You can see some good blooms forming now. Okay. Maybe we'll go back and do some more of this yellow and maybe mix it in with a little bit of the orange. Make it more of a muddy yellow. And then we'll go ahead and wet my paper again because it is a bit dry in here today. We'll do this right in between to combine them. As long as your paper is staying wet, it'll keep helping to move the colors together. Okay. I'm just going to do a little bit more green down this way. I might be able to get like a stem. I'm making more like a flower. And there we go. That looks pretty. Maybe do a little more yellow for a leaf shape. And when you're doing flowers, I always liked what they called them in some of my water classes, in my cake decorating classes. They call them fantasy flowers because it's not really matching to what society would say is a good color, but it is a beautiful flower, even though it's not necessarily a rose or a daffodil or any specific flower. It's just a fantasy flower. Try to get a little bit more of the blues so I can create a little bit of a background around it. So I'm just picking up a couple different blues until I find the one that I like. So this one is phthalo blue or turquoise. There we go. That's more of a sky color. I'm gonna need a lot of water on this one to really wash it down, so we don't get too much pigment with our colors. Just keep picking that up. And sometimes if you need more water, it's nice to have a dropper. You can use a dropper to either add a drop right directly to your paints to get them started, or you can add them to your colors a little bit faster than just picking up with your brush. Okay, so I just squirt some clean water in there, and there you go. Now it's a nice light wash. So I'm gonna go back to my paper. We're gonna put in some more water, just moving it around. I want some of it background to still stay dry so that we have some white between the flowers. Just have some light blue for a background. Okay. Now we're gonna start here and just start making our background. That's nice and wet. It makes a nice light color. I don't want too much of painting with a line because you can see a difference in that one versus where I'm just dotting it and then smearing it a little bit. Makes a nice soft edge to it. And this way I also don't put too much water on the paper. And this allows us to just continue with the blooms. You see a difference when I touch it, and it blooms, versus if I just paint it. It doesn't do that beautiful coming out of letting the pigments move. That's why it's better to just touch when you're doing the nice washes, and they will spread themselves out. As long as you have a good amount of water on your paper as well as on your brush. So you have a nice wash color. You can see as I move this around, it's really creating some very nice effects with that water and the wash. Okay. A little bit more over here, just to fill in some of these white spaces. A little bit more. There we go. You'll notice it's not super even, it's not super crazy. If you want, you can also pick up your paper and let it move. And you'll see here where they slide down into the other colors and fill in some of those white spaces. And you can just move it around. It makes a really pretty design. I want to do just a little bit more here to close up that hole. Okay. And that is it for right now. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and let this dry naturally and make sure that everything is ready so that when we go over it with the ink or the pencils, it doesn't smear the base layer. So this is really our background. And now we'll be able to go in with lines to really define what that looks like. So I'll be back in just a few moments to go ahead and get that started. All right, coming back to our watercolor painting. It's completely dry now. So now we can go over with our fine liner pens. I'm going to use the Faber-Castell. You can typically use just the black for all of your outlines and designs and drawings. But I like the green when I'm doing the stems, just so that it gives it a little bit more definition, so that you know that it is the stem of the flower. So looking at how this came out, it looks like I'm going to create 4 different flowers. So go ahead and open this up. And I think I'm going to turn this way. Adjust your work as needed. And this one looks like a very flowery one. So I'm just going to gently come around the edges and make it a very rough flower. And then I'm going to go back in and create some little lines to create all these little individual petals that are along our flower. There. That's a pretty little flower. We might cover up the center a little bit, make some of these lines a little softer. We're just making a little arch and coloring that in. And that just gives it a little bit more depth, as you can see, to show that it does have a center point. But with it being curvature like that, it really adds depth to it. And you might want to do a little feathering on the edges, but I'm going to just leave it like that. This one, I think, looks a little bit more like a tulip. So I'm going to turn my page again, because I think it's falling down to the side. And it's okay if you mix flowers on the same stem. This is a fantasy flower set. So we're just going to take a look. I think this is going to make a tulip. So I'm going to just make that center petal up and over. And then just come in and add another nice big petal. And a third. I might even do a 4th. There, that fills that in good. And again, I'm just going to make these curvatures at the bottom, so it's not just a sharp point. Very few things in nature are a sharp ending. I'm just going to make this come around and bring that down. Now, to make this have a little bit of depth, I'm actually going to start at my edges and just bring in a little bit of feathering towards the top of these. So I'm going to just do a little bit of lines, just to feather as it goes around the petal. Makes it a little bit lighter and not as sharp of an edge. And these should be varied in direction and thickness as we go around. Some of these might need to be a little bit longer, this length of a petal. So I'm just gonna add in some more lines coming down. Let's really just fill these in a little bit more. These feathering. Just following the flower. Do our last petal here. Some little hashes and some longer ones. Beautiful flower. And then for this last one, let's see, what do we want in the middle? I think I'll make the green one similar to that one. So I'm gonna just take it and make the edges. Hold your pen very loose so that it can just gently flow over the paper and make us a beautiful flower. And then this one I'm going to take and go all the way in. Smaller petals. Almost like a Zentangle, this one's coming out to be. And like I said, when we started this, there's no idea what flowers we're going to make, what designs we were going to make. It all just came together into a beautiful picture. And again, this is art as a hobby. So I'm not planning on selling this to anyone. It's just for my own satisfaction and to relax. So it's just whatever you feel like doing to your flowers, whatever you feel like doing to your pictures. It's always nice to mix up the different art supplies to make something very different. Okay. I have just a couple more lines in here. And then again, we'll soften these edges with a little center. Okay. And it looks like we still have this big space in the middle to fill. But I'm going to leave that open like that because I think I might use that to bring down my stems. So let's see how that looks. So I'm going to close up my fine liner of my black and I'm going to bring up my green. The green one is really for the stem area. So I'm going to start down here with a flower and just kind of roughly go along the edge. And it's okay if you have white space. It's okay if you have white or green over the edge. This is just a fantasy. So we're going to just go right down the center, make that into a leaf. And then we have another one here. This approximate shape. And you also don't have to take it all the way down. So if I wanted to decide to do the stem, I can just do a little area and a little area and another small area. You don't have to make it a solid line when you're making the stems. I'll branch this one over and connect it here. And with stems, you want it to be a little bit of a curve. No stem is straight. Bring that one in. And then we'll bring this one down. It's a pretty long stem for that little flower. So I'm going to use some of this yellow and just make another little flower petal here. A little leaf. And we're going to make another little leaf up here. Just a couple nice little leaves to really bring out that stem. And with this one, because there's not as much green, I'm just making some striations, just really lightly touching my fine liner to the paper, just to make some little lines in the stems. Give it a little bit of interest. Okay. Kind of want a little bit more into my leaves as well. Kind of plain. And again, nature's not perfect, so don't try to make every line the same length, the same thickness. It's okay to have a little twist here and there. Okay, so there is my flowers for today. I hope you enjoyed watching me make this relaxing florals with just a little bit of watercolor wash and the fine line marker. I'll see you in the next one.